Hundreds of people have been killed near Israeli-approved, U.S.-backed food distribution sites operated by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which last month received $30 million in funding from the U.S. State Department. Since then, their 4 distribution sites have been mired in controversy. Our Tom Soufi Burridge has tonight's prime focus.
At just 6 months old, Zainab Abu Halib is fighting to survive. Her body is severely malnourished. 4-year-old Razan Abu Zahir is also in a critical state. But Zainab and Razan are just 2 of tens of thousands of children in Gaza who the UN says are starving. And in the days after we filmed at this hospital in central Gaza, doctors say little Razan died. Aid agencies now warning there is man-made mass starvation in Gaza. Just weeks after a new US-Israel system was set up for distributing aid. This was the scene in early June at Gaza's Nasser hospital. A few days after that new aid system began, casualties streaming in, Palestinians who were shot on their way to collect food. 13-year-old Tahrir is asking for forgiveness from her dead mother. Her grief then turning to rage. Tahrir's mum, Reem, was shot dead earlier that morning. This video we verified capturing the panic and the crackle of gunfire as she and thousands of other hungry Palestinians gathered at sunrise less than a mile from an aid distribution site. People desperate for food sent running for their lives. Within hours, her body among those at a nearby hospital. The Red Cross saying 27 people, including children, were killed near the aid site on that day, and more than 150 injured.
توجهت ان غادا اجيب النا للظهور توجه راح اجيب بسطحين بس ان الضار فجاءنا انه الرصاص بخبط فينا وانا مفتوح للرصاص الجالي فهذه المساعدات مصيده بالضبط يعني مثل المصيده بحبوها بيطلعوا الشباب المساكين بدهم اياه بطخوه حتى يعني كثير من الناس الان بيعيشوا في مخمصه شديده.
The IDF said on that day its soldiers fired from a distance at suspects who they say approached them in a way that endangered their safety. Reem and others were trying to access an aid distribution point in Gaza run by an American-backed organisation known as the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which was established to address Israeli claims Hamas was seizing aid and profiting from it. The GHF was set up in late May. Since then, there has been chaos and killing near its sites on a regular basis. Cartloads of critically injured men were rushed to this hospital last week after a deadly stampede at a GHF distribution site. Those caught in the crush then treated on the floor, the hospital overflowing. At least 20 people were killed, according to the GHF. ABC News has also verified multiple videos capturing gunfire filmed on different days near GHF food distribution zones. The UN says it has recorded more than 1,000 Palestinians killed trying to get food since late May, more than 800 of those deaths near GHF sites. An American doctor operating in Gaza told us he's treated gunshot victims on an almost daily basis who were trying to access GHF sites.
They are riddled with gunshots to the chest, to the abdomen, to the limbs. You're seeing that your family is consistently not getting enough to eat. You're not having your meals that you're consistently getting. And then on top of that, there are these aid sites that turn into killing fields.
The desperate hunt for food in Gaza also causing chaos and killing away from GHF sites. The World Food Programme saying Israeli snipers and tanks opened fire on a crowd of Palestinians approaching a convoy of its aid trucks Sunday. killing more than 80 people, according to the UN. The IDF said its troops fired warning shots towards an immediate threat posed to them, and said the number of casualties reported does not align with its own information. NGOs and Hamas accused the Israeli military of repeatedly firing on hungry Palestinians. The Israeli military says its troops have, on several occasions, let off warning shots towards crowds when people have deviated from designated routes. The IDF has denied deliberately shooting at unarmed civilians and says it is not preventing Gazans from reaching aid sites, but did acknowledge incidents where harm to civilians who arrived at distribution facilities were reported. The Israeli government says it is allowing food aid into Gaza and blames Hamas for violent incidents near distribution sites.
The problem is not Israel, the problem is Hamas. They loot the trucks, they block distribution, they weaponize hunger, and they deliberately starve their own people.
But the UN and other aid agencies say the GHF system, in which people are forced to walk for miles and then grab food if they're fast enough, is dangerous and degrading. And they refuse to take part, saying this military-run aid system breaches fundamental principles of humanitarian aid.
We don't see this as humanitarian in any way, shape, or form. It's a coercive, first come, first serve competition for survival inside shrinking and active conflict zones where even standing in line has become a death sentence. When a starving population is herded, towards these distributions, I mean, they're literally, quite literally herded like, animals. Chaos is inevitable.
The US-led Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says its sites have so far supplied 91 million meals and rejects the idea its aid system endangers lives.
These are very, very complex questions.
We interviewed the executive chairman of the GHF in early June, just after a series of deadly incidents near to their aid sites.
Those deaths are happening because of the nature of your scheme, that people need to move through a very perilous area.
No, the deaths are happening in the Gaza Strip because it's a war. I'm not doing this for anybody to die. We have one mission for people to be fed. And yet it's all happening in this incredibly complex environment. If every death is a tragedy, we'll do everything we can to avoid it. But we cannot stop distributing aid because it's a dangerous situation.
Still, as the war continues and the problem of hunger worsens, it remains the youngest children who are often suffering the most. So much care and time will be needed to nurse 6-month-old Zainab back to health. But for Tahrir and her brother Ahmed, who now live in Gaza amidst the ruins of their former home, a system that was supposed to give them food took, they say, the life of their mum. At the age of 12, Ahmed says he feels guilt because she died trying to get food for him and her 4 other children.
Powerful and incredibly important work. Tom Soufi Burridge, thank you.